Encryption politics, dead apps, and sharks versus robots. Tech News Tonight is next.
This is Twit.
This is Tech News Tonight, episode 481 for Monday, December 7th, 2015. This episode is brought to you by Blue Apron. Blue Apron will send you all of the ingredients to cook fresh, delicious meals with simple step-by-step instructions right to your door. See what's on the menu this week and get your first 2 meals free by going to blueapron.com/twit. That's blueapron.com/twit. Welcome, I am Megan Maroney. Let's get to the tech news. The violence over the past month in San Bernardino, as well as all over the world, is as horrible as it is confounding. It has also reignited the debate over encryption and the role of tech companies to protect the world from terrorists. While Hillary Clinton was busy berating the tech industry for not solving the ISIS problem, and President Obama was appealing to Silicon Valley for helping limit access to social media by violent individuals, Alphabet's Eric Schmidt took to the opinion pages of the New York Times to wax poetic about the benefits of technology despite the ills. Ever since there's been fire, Schmidt wrote, there has been arson. Schmidt has always been against backdoors for governments, and he doesn't change his stance here, although he doesn't mention backdoors or encryption in the piece. Instead, he talks of something like a spell checker for hate and harassment and targeting social accounts for terrorist groups in order to remove videos before they spread. This is a sticky situation, and it won't be solved anytime soon. If you are interested in this topic at all, I say give Schmidt's op-ed a read. We will put the link in our show notes. Meanwhile, the French government seems to be taking matters into its own hands. In the wake of last month's terrorist attacks, France is considering blocking Tor and public Wi-Fi during states of emergency. This is according to leaked documents from France's Ministry of Interior. The proposals could be presented to Parliament as early as January 2016, and both measures are intended to help the government track terrorist communication. Blocking free and shared Wi-Fi just during a crisis seems somewhat acceptable, but the idea of blocking Tor completely all the time could create more problems than it solves, is difficult from a technology perspective, and according to Ars Technica, would not do a whole lot anyway. And in the technology used for good category, we hope it will be used for good, today Alphabet introduced Verily, a rebrand of Google's Life Science. Verily is devoted to using Alphabet's vast resources and technology assets like machine learning algorithms to, quote, create a true picture of human health. The ultimate goal is to better prevent, detect, and manage disease. Dropbox is killing 2 of its standalone apps, the once popular email app called Mailbox and its photo management app, Carousel. You might remember that Mailbox was one of the first email apps to offer useful tools to get to Inbox Zero. Dropbox acquired Mailbox in 2013 because of its swipe to archive and swipe to delete or schedule signature features. Now you can find those features in the Outlook email app, Inbox for Google, and many other email apps that are more popular than Dropbox Mailbox. Carousel's photo feature also seems to pale in comparison to Google Photos or Apple Photos. The Verge says Mailbox will shut down on February 26th, and Carousel will follow on March 31st. In other app news, an update for Chrome for Android will now help you avoid visiting dangerous websites on your phone using Google's Safe Browsing client. Safe Browsing on Android has been available for a while, but now it is enabled by default. Coming up, Ian Scher from CNET is here to tell us why Facebook is getting rid of its creative labs. But first, this episode is brought to you by Blue Apron. You need to know how to cook. Not only will this make you feel like you know your way around the kitchen, but cooking at home means eating healthier, saving money instead of ordering expensive takeout. But where do you start? Blue Apron has you covered. For less than $10 per meal, Blue Apron delivers all the fresh ingredients you need to create home-cooked meals. Just follow the easy step-by-step instructions. Each meal can be prepared in 40 minutes or less. No overwhelming trips to the grocery store. No more sad takeout. No matter your dietary preferences, Blue Apron makes it a breeze to discover and prepare dishes like spiced pork chops with charred poblano salsa and sweet potato mash, or smoky Swiss chard and black bean tostados with queso fresco and roasted piquillo peppers right in your own kitchen. Cook with ingredients that you've never used before, such as watermelon radishes, farro, and purple potatoes. Recipes are between 500 to 700 calories per portion. They are delicious and good for you. Right now, you can get your first 2 meals free just by going to blueapron.com/twit. Check out this week's menu and get your first 2 meals free by going to blueapron.com/twit. And we thank Blue Apron for their support of Tech News Tonight. Facebook is shutting down its standalone apps Slingshot, Riff, and Rooms. What? You've never heard of them? That is not surprising, especially if you are not a tech journalist. All three of these apps were part of Facebook's Creative Labs, and that is shutting down too. Joining us to talk about what this means for Facebook is Ian Scher, Executive News Editor from CNET. Welcome, Ian.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for coming on. So tell us a little bit about Facebook's Creative Labs program.
Well, the idea was actually really interesting. You know, if you're a developer who joins Facebook, you're going to probably end up getting slotted into a job that you're doing a specific thing, working on a subsection of the website, and maybe that's not everything you want to do with your whole day. And so what this was an idea to say, okay, if you have like a hackathon, you come up with an idea, let's allow you to create a team and put this app out there and see how it does. And that's what Creative Labs really was about. And so you had stuff like Paper, which was that really neat app about how to read through your newsfeed in a very different way that's inspired very different ways that Facebook looks at its website now. You could argue instant articles and a lot of other things have come from that feeling that came from Paper. But there were also some missing the marks like Riff, which was this idea about doing kind of videos based upon a theme that were kind of Giphy. Rooms, which was a kind of bulletin board service type thing. It called back a lot to the old internet, but it was an interesting idea. And then you had Slingshot, which was very much a Snapchat-like competitor where you sent your friends ephemeral messages and they responded back. And all three of those have been shut down, or they're in the process of being shut down. And Creative Labs as a banner, as an idea, is kind of going away. But Facebook has said they're going to continue doing this stuff anyway. Obviously, they're going to allow engineers to come up with new ideas and allow them to fund new app ideas to see how they go, because it's very easy, right? If you have a real winner, it costs you practically nothing to do it. And if you have a failure, you might have an interesting idea that comes out of it that you end up using throughout the website. So it's really an all-winner type situation to do this.
And right, I mean, in some ways, it's like all of us tech journalists are so thirsty. We're just like, well, we'll report on whatever they come up with because we're the same way, right? We think like this is going to be the big thing, and this next thing is going to be the big thing. And I mean, sometimes we say like when Riff came out, I was like, well, it's a thing. It might be, the next big thing or not. So I mean, it keeps them in the news, right?
Well, it's not just that. It also, I mean, it's easy as a tech journalist to get dismissive and whatnot. And, a lot of us, I probably kind of look at things like, that won't go anywhere. And then suddenly it becomes huge. And that's normal because we are not the target market, right? We are not the 7 billion people who live on the planet. There are many people who use the internet and use apps in a very different way than you and I do. And I think that's what I've always found fascinating about this stuff. So when I've approached it and when Facebook has shown me an app or anyone shown me an app, I've always tried to keep an open mind that maybe there's someone out there using it in a way I could never imagine. And it will take off like wildfire. With Facebook, it definitely helps them stay in the news as well. And it shows them as an innovative company, right? And, there are a couple of things that Facebook always needs to remind the world. And especially when you think about they're competing for talent, they're competing for engineers and developers, they want to look like an innovative company that's willing to invest in your next big idea if they're going to attract those people to go work for them instead of Google or Apple or someone else willing to pay a high salary as well.
Right. So how is Creative Labs different than like Google's 20% program or something like Microsoft does, Microsoft Garage? How are all these programs different from each other?
In a lot of ways, they're very similar. So Microsoft Garage is also, it's kind of employees and interns and people who come together to build small kind of projects and then throw them out in the world and see how they do. And you can see a lot of stuff that's come out of Microsoft Garage if you go to the website. It's kind of interesting stuff out there. There's also some unusual and big things that have come out of it, like apps that for my iPhone that some people really use. Google's 20% time as well, stuff like Gmail has come out of that. And that's really helped them as well. But, all of this stuff is always designed around the idea of let an engineer, if they have a good idea, test it out, try and see where it goes, and see if it can be successful. And in the same vein, Facebook needed something to be able to do that. They created this name, Creative Labs, to do that. But they say they'll continue doing it anyway, despite the fact that they're kind of retiring the name.
So are we supposed to read into this that Facebook is becoming less experimental or focusing more, less on apps?
I think if you look at Facebook's list of things they did in just the last year, not experimental is not a term I would use. They're doing artificial intelligence. They're trying to beam Wi-Fi through these drones that fly at suborbital. It's crazy, right? And they're doing all of these other types of things. they are definitely being experimental and trying new things. But what's interesting is that they're kind of also putting the brakes a little bit on their app ambitions, at least, right? And we'll see whether or not that actually means anything. I mean, in the next year, we may still see 20 new apps come out of there that are completely different from the normal Facebook app and the Instagram app and everything. So this may end up being for naught, but at least the name and retiring that means that they've recognized that maybe they don't need to put a lot of effort behind reminding us all that they're an innovative company and telling the developers out there who want to come work for them that don't worry, we'll support you doing other things as well. I guess maybe they think the message is already received.
So what about, I mean, Instagram has a lot of successful standalone apps.
Yes.
Hyperlapse, Layout, Boomerang. Do you think that they're just sort of turning that sort of creative arm over to them?
Well, they're definitely going to still support those things. I asked about that. And, Paper also is still going to be there. They're definitely allowing groups within Facebook to continue doing these things. And right now, Instagram is very much one of those groups that's testing out a lot of new ideas. You see stuff with advertising where they're really trying new things. And they're also, as you mentioned, they've got a few apps that they're testing out as well. That may change over time, right? That they may find that things like hyperlapse might actually work well within the main app. And that might be what happens. It really depends upon how people respond to these apps, how we use them. One thing about these 3 apps that they shut down, Slingshot, Riff, and Rooms, was that the amount of usage of them had declined significantly from their launch. And that's another important thing about Facebook to show is that Silicon Valley talks about failing fast and all that stuff, move fast and break things. But one of the really kind of interesting things that you see with Facebook is they're willing to kill off a product that's not being used, and they're willing to do it quickly, or as quickly as you can consider a year of testing to be. And that's something that's interesting. You see a lot of other companies out there that are willing to let stuff kind of sit on the vine for a very long time, and then they kind of very slow to get rid of it for whatever reasons. And Facebook doesn't seem to be like that. They seem to be willing to be, nope, it's not working, get rid of it.
Right. I mean, it's interesting because these are apps that it's not like they were once really popular. Not that many people had heard of them. So it's interesting. That's a good point that they are moving fast and not letting something die on the vine like some other companies. Well, Ian, thank you so much for joining us. Ian Scher is the executive news editor at CNET. He is at Ian Scher with 2 R's on Twitter. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Who wants to see a shark try to eat a robot? I thought so. Today, the website Hackaday posted a video from the Woods Hole Oceanography Institute. In it, a shark mistakes a robotic underwater vehicle for a seal. Thankfully for us, the autonomous vehicle was equipped with 6 GoPros. Here's the story. Back in 2014, a scientist unleashed an underwater vehicle called the REMUS, or Remote Environmental Monitoring Units, near Guadalupe Island in Mexico to film great white sharks in the wild. Scientists tagged the animals with acoustic beacons and equipped the robot with an acoustic homing array to the beacon. After receiving an underwater alarm on the robot, the scientists brought up the REMUS and watched the video. It looks like they're gonna need a bigger robot. And that is it for this edition of Tech News Tonight. Thanks for listening all the way to the end. I know your time is important. I am grateful to you for spending it with me. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, Facebook, and the Apple TV. If you have suggestions or comments about a show, send me a voice memo. Just record your comment. Email me the voice memo to megan@twit.tv. You can also subscribe to this show at twit.tv/TN2. Write to us at TN2@twit.tv. And watch live every weekday at 4 p.m. Pacific. And don't miss our morning news program, Tech News Today, every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Megan Maroney. Thanks for watching.
Bandwidth for Tech News Tonight is brought to you by CashFly.com.